Welcome to Beyond the Surface. On our podcast, we highlight underrepresented voices in architecture. We'll humanize architects by uncovering who they are beyond the surface. Hi, I'm your host, Alex Sanchez, representing the Illinois Tech student chapter of the National Organization of Minority Architects. Today's episode is called Empowering Voices with our guest, Alicia Ponce. This episode is very special to us because it completes 1 year of podcasting with Beyond the Surface, and I would like to introduce our guest, Alicia Ponce. Alicia is the founder and principal of AP Monarch, a Chicago-based architecture firm providing architecture design services, community engagement, and sustainability consulting in the Midwest and Latin America. A registered architect in Illinois and Wisconsin, Ponce has over 25 years of architecture and sustainability experience and is a graduate of the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. She is a commissioner on the Chicago Landmarks Commission and a board member for the United Way Metro Chicago. In 2020, she founded Arcatina, a national 501c3 organization with the mission to increase the number of licensed Latina architects in the U.S. In 2022, Alicia was recognized with the Landmarks Illinois Influencer Award and the Latino Leaders Magazine Maestro of Professional Achievement Award. In 2023, she was recognized by Chicago Women of Architecture for the 2023 Breaking Glass Award as an established architect changing the face of the profession through achievements and design excellence. Alicia is a contributing author of Today's Inspired Latina Volume 6 and the creator of the award-winning book Latinas in Architecture, Stories of Raising the 1%, One Latina at a Time. Thank you for being here with us today. How do you feel?
I feel great. Thank you for having me, Alex, and happy anniversary.
Thank you. It's been a long journey, and I'm really, really happy that you agreed to be with us today, especially since you're also an inspiration. So we can start the episode. Can you tell us about your upbringing and how that influenced your identity?
Of course. I grew up in the southwest side, just on the edge of Chicago, in a neighborhood called Argo Summit. And my parents are from Mexico, and I was born and raised in Argo Summit. We spent a lot of our summers in Mexico, in Morelia, Michoacan. And I feel like that whole experience really fostered my love for nature, my respect for nature, and curiosity to learn from it. I didn't realize it until much later, but I was also very little. I think I was about 6 years old when I just loved looking at bulldozers and construction sites, and I loved putting things together and drawing and all of that stuff, creating. So growing up, those two things naturally came together. The putting together of things, creating things, I didn't know what it was, but also curiosity of nature and the beauty of nature. So throughout my journey of then later identifying that as architecture, I realized it was sustainable architecture. My family, there was no architects in the family. I was the first in my family to graduate from college and pursue this career. And my family supported me. My parents supported me throughout this journey, even though they didn't really understand the commitment, the hours. They saw the expense, right? But I was fortunate enough that they supported me through that whole process, through graduation and getting that first job. So that was my beginnings and introduction to architecture, just coming across a construction site at a very young age and really just smelling that freshly poured concrete was like anyone can close their eyes and smell it, right? Just like you can close your eyes and smell the rain. So those two things, I think, just came together.
I relate to that a lot because I feel like also for me, what got me into architecture is my family's also involved in construction. I was always around it. And so one time when I saw like pretty much the structure of a house, I was like, that's under a house? So it like surprised me a lot. And I ended up pretty much here. Can you talk about your journey through architecture, like in the beginning of your journey?
Yeah, I could start in high school, I guess, when it comes to that time where you are told, okay, now you have to pick a school. Even a little bit before that is you have to have a good GPA so that you can choose your school. I have to be honest with you because talking about guidance and the proper mentors and role models, I didn't know what a GPA was. And I didn't know the importance of a GPA to get you into a certain school. But luckily, because I like school and my parents supported me, I did good in school. I was a good student. So I later learned that, oh, coincidentally, I have a good enough GPA to apply for colleges. But those are the things that when I speak to career school days, whether it's an elementary school or high school, I make sure that I talk about every decision counts. Yes, let's have time for fun and play and learning, but also realize that there's an important factor to what you do while you're in school. So the GPA was luckily in my favor. I applied for several schools, even IIT being one of them, because of its reputation for architecture. Even that journey was a little daunting for me, where I don't feel like I had the support. I was really not encouraged to pursue college in high school, except for my one high school teacher, my English teacher, who he saw me walking kind of sad in the hallway. And he's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong, Alicia? What's wrong?" And I said, I'm being told I'm probably not smart enough to go to college, but I really at least want to try. And so my teacher, Mr. Johnson, he's like, "What?" He was so upset at hearing that. And we need more teachers like Mr. Johnson. We need them everywhere to encourage students to follow their dreams. And he just took me to the classroom and he grabbed an application, a paper application, because that's what you did at the time. There were no online applications that I could Google on my own. I had to request one. So he helped me through that whole process. And I'll tell you, if it wasn't for him, maybe I would have still gone to college, but it would have taken me a little bit longer. But that's how I went to college. I ended up going to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and it was an awesome experience. So that's part of my journey.
I really feel like in our lives, there's a lot of people who lead us down a path that we don't know that we're going to go down. And I feel like for you, that person was Mr. Johnson. He really pushed you to continue so you would be able to go to college and do everything that you do now. And I'm glad that you say that, because I feel like we don't acknowledge all the people who have helped us get this far. And I like that because you show how someone encouraged you and pushed you to become the way you are. Sitting right here in front of you right now, I feel a little bit inspired because I have read one of your books on Latinas in architecture. And I have the honor as well of having someone like April. I know you know April.
Yes.
And she's like a mentor to me. And she's the one who introduced me to your book. And
Okay.
she went to one of your events, Argentina, and then she just emails me out of nowhere. And she's like, "Alex, I got you a book." And I was like, "Oh, what book?"
You're like, I don't need to read more books.
Yeah, because we read them for like school all the time. But I was like, "All right, let's go get this book." And I got it, and I was like, "Oh, I've never seen a book with just Latina women in architecture." It's like, that's so cool. And I feel like that was very impactful for me, because I've always complained about how school doesn't teach you like the history of architecture outside of like standard American history or like European. Since I feel like I miss out on seeing architecture in other cultures, like even in other countries. And then either when they talk about people who have impacted architecture in Chicago, in the United States, they don't really talk about people of color. And I feel like sometimes that even like just makes me sad, because I feel like I can't relate to any of the architects. Like, even though I have been told, oh, in the past only white men could be architects, I was like, well, you're proving
Yeah.
to everyone that that's true, because you're not showing us anyone else who has become architects. So I feel like that book, it's amazing. And
Yeah.
also just thank you for writing it, because
Yeah.
it is impactful.
No, it is. I mean, there's two books. There's the volume one. It's more about in our culture, we're taught to don't cause trouble, keep your head down, work hard, and just work hard and get as far as you can,
Yeah.
but don't cause any trouble. But it's about embracing our journey and really empowering each other and using our voices, kind of like what you guys are doing here with the podcast, right? Sharing those stories and inspiring others, because you never know who's listening, you never know who's reading. And then the second book is about raising your head high, raising your hand, and speaking louder. And so it's not about putting your head down anymore. It's about walking proudly and embracing exactly who you are and where you came from or your parents came from, and designing great architecture.
Yeah, I feel like I've been able to learn a lot from it. And I'm just excited for this new generation, like architects. You've never seen an example of someone who looks like me. I'm right here. And I feel like that's really nice to have. From the podcast, I've learned that there has been like many people who didn't grow up with having those type of role models. And
Right.
then they became those role models. And I feel like now we have the honor to be able to grow up with the role models that prove to us that it is possible to become an architect.
Yeah, I mean, the book was based, I had no intentions of writing a book. That wasn't ever in my radar. But actually, the publisher of the book, Fig Factor Media, is also a Latina. Her name is Jackie Camacho Ruiz, and she just elevates women and Latinas even more so globally, and giving us a voice and a platform. But that book ended up being as a result of Arquitina, the nonprofit that I started in 2020. Also because of the frustration of the lack of representation, opportunities, and mentorship that I felt I didn't get in my whole journey. And even now in the professional journey, it's a little better, but it could always improve. And so Arquitina was created so that people like you see us and say, you know what, it is possible. Women of color are less than 1% licensed architects. So that has been the number since the creation of architecture in this country. And so why is that? Why can't that number increase? Well, I have my own reasons to believe why that is and experiences. So that book came out of the nonprofit, and it captures stories from women all over Latin America. And we're all very similar in that we're very close to our families, right? Family is very important, support and all of that. But we realize is that even though we're less than 1%, we produce 200%. Because if we're bilingual, we think in two languages. We look at our cultures and we can interconnect all of that. And we bring a different perspective. All of the national conversations on DEI, right? It's such a strange thing. But to me, it goes back to the beauty of diversity, of a diverse solution in architecture. Why would you want the same type of building or space created by the same type of people over and over again when you have all these other people that have lived different experiences, therefore providing different design solutions that improve our environments? And it makes it so much stronger. And if you know nature, that's how it works. That's the beauty of nature, the diversity of all of our biodiversity. And so it goes back to getting that inspiration from nature.
I know you have a lot of notable projects about sustainability, and you received also many awards. Can you talk about what your philosophy with sustainability and how buildings should connect with nature?
Yeah, and again, it goes back to the way that I grew up. I think about the summers in Mexico, staying with my great-grandmother or my grandparents' house. They were amazing, beautiful adobe houses where they're just so comforting by sound, by temperature, and they're made by earth. And the colors that they're painted with to the finish of the adobe house. And growing up, running around in clean streams and the green mountainous landscapes. So that I feel very, very fortunate of growing up in that type of playground, if you will. So modern architecture likes to experiment, and there's nothing wrong with that. Experimentation and innovation is amazing, and we should all be doing it. But I also think that we should be very mindful of our climate, of what's happening around the world, and who is feeling those impacts first as a result of what we're doing in the building industry. Because do you know what buildings contribute to the environment?
Carbon emissions?
Carbon emissions, and buildings are one of the highest culprits of that. Globally, it's 40% of carbon emissions. In Chicago, it's 70%. And I really believe that architects, builders are the superheroes of the building industry and can reverse climate change, can stop it, because we make those decisions. We are the ones who select materials. We are the ones who figure out the shape, the orientation, and we work with our design team of engineers. We work with our clients to try to make this the best possible building, the healthiest building for ourselves, to breathe that healthy indoor air quality, therefore outdoor air quality for the people around us in the surrounding neighborhood, community at large. So we make those decisions, and it's up to us to be innovative, to do that, to reduce those carbon emissions. And that's what we do at AP Monarch. We constantly try to look at ways to push that envelope, because it's not rocket science. Going back to that Adobe house, it was built with earth, right? They made bricks out of earth to control the climate. So it's warm in the winter and it's cool in the summer, and during the day and at night. So those materials are local to that region, and it's up to us to figure out what can materials do for us locally without causing so much harm to the environment and bringing materials from across the ocean just because they're exotic. I think we should be more conscious of that. And if more architects would do that, then we would be in a much better place. Architecture can still be beautiful. Let's challenge ourselves a little bit.
I like that, because I feel like what the earth grows in the environment belongs there. And so it's going to treat the buildings that are being built out of it differently than materials that are being brought from other places. Can you talk a little bit about your firm, AP Monarch, and how that began?
So AP Monarch, I started it in 2007. And again, it goes back to what I feel lack of representation, mentorship, or anyone paying attention to what a stereotypical that looks like me, quiet, shy, an introvert, probably has no ideas. She'll do what we tell her to do, right? And I'm not saying that this is 100% my whole experience, because I have mentors that I have still maintained in contact with since my first job. This is like over 25 years ago now. But AP Monarch, I started it in 2007. This was around the time I was looking for more opportunities to work on sustainable projects. And I just wasn't finding it. Well, can I work on that project? Or what if we do this? But I felt like I wasn't being heard, or people move around when you have jobs. You have to look for something that makes you happy, that fulfills you. So that's what I was looking for. So I was at a very small firm doing huge residential houses, the total opposite of what I wanted to do. But I wasn't there very long because I was laid off. At the time, what was coming was the residential housing market was about to completely fall. And as I was working at a firm that did residential, our firm was feeling it. And so I got laid off. And when I got laid off, I gathered my things, just like you see in the movies or the TV. Somebody walks out with a box of things. That was me. That was me. I just put my stuff in the box and I walked out. I remember it was a beautiful sunny day, and I'm like, I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to see where this takes me. I don't know what came over me that said that, because it wasn't in the plans. I never thought about owning a business. What do I know about running a business? But that's what I said. And so I started looking at, okay, how do you form a business and all of that. My first client that was looking for an architect that wanted to build for the LEED certification. And so I got my first client, and we were doing design. I was doing consulting for the certification. And that's how I got my start. And that's probably not how everybody gets their start, but I had zero money. Zero money. I was living on my own in the South Loop. I had a condo and I had a car, and I sold my car. And with the sale of my car, that was what I had for my company. That's how I started AP Monarch. But after that, I just never, ever looked back, because I was the founder and principal of AP Monarch. I make the decisions. I was the one, okay, I'm going to innovate. Yes, I am an introvert and I'm on the quiet side, but if you get me talking about architecture and sustainability, that gets me very excited. So that was my beginnings of AP Monarch.
I've never really heard a story like this. It feels a lot more raw. You're just like, I sold my car, got the money, started my firm, and was like, I'm the boss.
I'm the boss. I mean, that's how it is. I try to be as honest as I can, because this is how people start things, right? And this is how maybe you or anybody here can start a business if you really feel motivated enough to do it. It's not easy. I'll tell you that. It's not easy, but all of the experiences that I've gone through, even from starting from elementary school, right, and high school and college and getting my first job, it's just like, I'm going to make my own decisions. Identify when something is not right, and you just keep plugging away. It builds resilience.
And what type of work do you like to focus on with your firm? Do you feel like you're reaching your goals for sustainability?
I feel like we're getting there, and this is over 16 years. So I would say that the first 5 years of my business, I started to work on some design and some lead consulting work. But then there's something called life that you have to live, right? It's not just about architecture. So I had 2 children during those first 5 years. I'm a mom of Emilio and Paz. And I was able to work a little bit and also be a mom with them. So that's what we talk about with Arquitina, because sometimes it's very difficult for women to think, I'm going to hold off having a baby. I really want a baby. Me and my husband want a family, but I'm going to hold off because that promotion might be passed up to another person. Well, that's not a way to live. You have to blend in your life into your career. And so I remember when I was working at a firm, there was a woman there. I think we were working together for at least 2 years. One day it slipped that she had a daughter. And I said, you have a daughter? And she said, please don't tell anyone. Because for fear that she thought she would get passed up for leading a job. So that's not right. But those are the things that happen in our industry. Because we're about 20% women in the industry, well, more, 20% licensed of architects are women, and then less than 1 are women of color. So those are the things that come up as we're trying to be a part of this industry. Oh, if she gets pregnant, well, we're going to give it to Kevin or whatever his name, we'll give it to the guy, right? That's the fear of getting passed up, so we have to hide things of ourselves. But what Arquitina is about is, no, embrace who you are. Be proud of who you are. Have your family. have your plan, and of course, be good at what you do. You have to be very, very good and disciplined in your architecture. People say it's a balancing act. I'm not sure what it is, but it's life. You have to manage all of those things and provide support to each other. If you do decide to have a family with you and your partner, or have a pet or something, just to have a life, because our field is very demanding, but we love it, right?
Yeah, we love it.
Yeah, so those are the things that we talk about at Arquitina. So I had my 2 kids, and then after they grew up a little bit, they were in school full time, I gave it more energy to build AP Monarch. And so at AP Monarch, we do a lot of consulting for green building certification. And then I started to build up my team because it was just me for a very long time. And then I started to hire people. And now the goal is to be the architects for net zero buildings, or buildings that are very conscious of no to low carbon emissions, find out what that site-specific solution is. And so that's what we're doing. We do office build-outs, interior renovations, we're doing retail. We have worked on the Field Museum. We did their last master plan. That was an awesome project because I remember going as a kid on a field trip to the Field Museum. It was so much fun. And then walking in as a professional and doing a master plan for the Field Museum. So that was very, very special. And so now we're doing new construction architecture in the south and southwest sides. We're working in Little Village, doing a net zero project. We're working in back of the yards, doing some retail projects. We're working in Inglewood, doing new construction for an urban ag nonprofit. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Not easy, but it's a lot of fun.
You're doing a lot. And even when I was like practicing reading your bio, I was like, this woman does a lot. Like, she is an author, she is a mother, she is award winning, she works in the community. How do you manage all of that?
I don't know. I think it's knowing what you can handle, and it's where your passion and your purpose takes you. Surrounding yourself with people that support you. I have an incredible husband who supports me on everything. And he is a leader in his own right, working at a nonprofit. But having those people that support you, your friends, your family, and your partners, even your kids. My kids can rattle off statistics on the environment or Arquitina. They know them because they hear me all the time. And so that's really, really important. And again, it's what drives you. Do you have a little bit of energy to do this? But it has to feel right. I have a great team at AP Monarch. It's an awesome team because I can't do it alone. I don't do all of this alone. The nonprofit, I reached out to the licensed Latina architects that I knew. There were about 5 of them that I reached out to in 2020. I said, hey, I have this idea. How did you feel during your architectural journey? And I still have this conversation with women that I meet, and they're like, it's lonely. It's really lonely. But now it doesn't feel lonely anymore because now we see each other. Now we tell you, you are seen. We see you, and they see us. We're getting a lot of support, and we have a bit of a platform with AIA National, Chicago and Illinois, and across the country because of the books. So not one person does it alone. Not one person is perfect. And when I speak at events, I said, raise your hand if you're perfect, or raise your hand if you do it alone. Everybody needs somebody.
That's very beautiful. I know earlier you talked a little bit about not having too many mentors. Can you talk about the ones that you did have and some of your inspirations to do some of the things you have done so far?
Mm-hmm. Well, my first mentors are my family, like the women in my family. They just set a really good example of being resilient and strong. In the field, when I first got my job, it was my first boss who I still speak to. And as a matter of fact, I just received a text from him. This is 25 years later. My first boss, he's like, "Hey, Alicia, I know that you're doing great. And you know what? I'm going to do something on my own. Can we talk?" And I'm like, this is my mentor asking me for advice now. So it's a really nice full circle of events. Who happens to be a man, a white man, right? And then my other mentor, architect, another man. I can call him anytime about architecture or about life in general. And he's there. He's there. Like one of the things he told me when things got really tough, I just tell him, I said, "Oh my God, I just want to stop." And he has 25 more years experience than I do. He's like, "Alicia, always finish what you start. Always finish what you start." I'm like, "But I can't handle it." Always finish what you start. So that's very helpful. I always think of that, and then I follow through, and I'm happy. I'm happy that I did it. It's not easy, but it's so much more rewarding when you do that. And then let's talk about the Latinas architects. So when I started Arquitina, there were about 5 or 6 of us that were on a Zoom call, and we all knew Pat Natke from Urban Works. She was the one that we all looked at and said, "Who is that? And I want to be like her." And she's a person that opens doors, very approachable. Sometimes when you reach a certain height in your career, you don't have time for certain people, but she is not that way. To this day, she just is very approachable. She will sit down with you and answer your questions. And that's what true leadership is, mentorship. And then she has another architect in her firm. Her name is Maria Peyot. She's another mentor to many others and a representation that other Latinas, future generation of Latina architects can see of what is possible. So when I graduated from U of I, and then I came back to Chicago and started doing like professional events, she was the one person that I saw that looked like me. There was nobody else. And she was approachable. So it's about not forgetting that you didn't get there alone. So why not help others?
Yeah, I relate a little bit to that too, because I remember one of our past episodes, we interviewed Linda Chavez. I think she is the first Latina woman I had ever met that was an architect. And first meeting her was probably life-changing for me because I had never met somebody remotely like looked like me. And I feel like it's hard to like find that community in the beginning, especially as students. You don't know what resources there are out there. So I understand when you say like, "Oh my gosh, you
almost wanted to go like poke her and like, is she real?"
Yeah, I was like, "Can you just tell me everything about yourself?"
Exactly, yeah.
So I just like wanted to learn so much more. And so that's also why like this episode is also very special to me, to be able to meet also another Latina woman in architecture who is doing so much in the community, following her desires for architecture. And I feel like also another thing that I do like about the work that you do is you said that you went to Mexico, you took what inspired you about the homes and you put it into your work. But at the same time, the work you do is still architectural work. And I feel like sometimes what's hard with Latina women is they get pushed towards doing work only in like Mexico, only in like different countries. And you have been able to still stand up and make stands here and still be able to impact architecture where your home is, because even though you are Mexican, you still grew up in Chicago and you're still giving back to the community here. So I feel like that's really, really, really cool.
Thank you.
So you've talked a lot about Argentina. I mean, considering you are the founder, can you talk a little bit more about what it is and how it helps people?
I'd love to. Arquitina is something that grew into an organization that I never imagined it would grow like this. It started in Chicago, where I called like 4 to 5 architects that I knew, Latinas, And only because when I was studying for the exams, it was really tough. It was very expensive for me because we are also the lowest paid. Architecture is a low paid profession as it is. As a Latina, we're lowest paid. As women, we're lower paid. And the hours are very demanding. So there's the thing of time. We talk about that at Arquitina, that these are the challenges. So the challenges for the architectural journey, it was founded on this base of raising the percentage of architects that are Latina, getting through that hurdle. It takes on average for anyone taking the ARE 12 years. That's a statistic published by NCARB. So some people pass it in a year, congratulations. Others take 10, 15, 20 years, depending on what you have going on in life too. If you're a Latina who wants a family, right, you have then your kids to take care of. You have your job to do. You have to pay the bills. You have to spend time with your family and all of that. So those are the things that I know, but that also presented challenges for me to complete those exams. Some people are great test takers. I was not one of them. And you know what? That's okay. That is okay. And that's what we tell the Arquitinas or anybody taking the exam, because it's such a pressure. When somebody is taking the exam, you don't want anybody to know because everyone and their mother is asking, did you pass? Did you pass? And so there's this thing about shame if you don't pass. So you just feel awful. And if it takes you 5 years, 10 years, you just want to give up and choose something else. Those are the Latinas that we want to get to. We want to say, don't give up. Look at us. We have different backgrounds, different journeys, different situations. And we all did it. So you can too. And so it brings hope to those women that are taking the exams. And so the call that we had, we all agreed that we were going to mentor Latinas out there taking the exams. How do we find them? Well, we were in a pandemic, so social media, Zoom calls, all of that, our virtual world opened up so large, as we all know, that we connected across the country. And that's one way that we grew so much. And all of a sudden, we had Latinas from coast to coast, licensed, and those who were taking the exams. And since 2020, we have had 7 cohorts, and there's about 12 to 15 Latinas per cohort. And we're on our 7th one right now. And since 2020, we've had 10 licensed architects come out of our cohorts. So that is huge. We are celebrating, we are moving the needle ever so slightly, but we are seen. We see each other, we hear each other, and so what we do is we provide study resources, because not only are the exams expensive, but then there are the study resources that are also very costly. So we started to provide those online study sources that are really, really helpful to help you along the way. So that's what we do. I would ask to look us up online on our website, arquitina.org. We are on LinkedIn. We are on Instagram. You can support us by donating any amount or purchasing our books, because the purchase of the books, it all goes back to the organization to help fund the programs. And we're all 100% volunteer-based right now. And we believe in the mission. We're moms, business owners. We have leadership roles in our firms. Again, we have lives in our families or extracurricular activities, but we all are committed to the mission.
And it's a big mission to do. It's sad, but there's less than 1%. And I feel like that number, I feel like right now, people only look at it as a number, and they're people. To bring every single architect in the entire nation, and only less than 1% is Latina woman, I feel like people don't really see how drastic of a number that is. That is super, super small and very unacceptable. And in the field, we really do need to support each other, because if not, who will? It does help to know that even once I do graduate, once I leave, I know where I can go if I need to, and I will.
I hope
Yeah.
so. The less than 1% is a daunting number. And it's women of color. It's not just Latinas, it's women of color across the board. So, what can we do to increase that number? So, if there's less than 1% of women of color who are licensed architects, what are the percentage opportunities to design, to make choices in our built environment? What is that percentage? It's probably even less than that. So we would like to contribute. We have things to say. We have innovative ideas from our lived experiences to contribute to the built environment. As women, as mothers, just being a part of this earth. So with Arquitina, I truly believe that following the motto of lift as you climb, when you get to a place that's a little bit higher, don't forget the ones that are following. Open the door for the others and do it in a way that's authentic and honest. There are people, I'm sure we've all come across, that say that in public they will help you, but then you're sitting there waiting on that promise. But you can't do that. That's okay. Move on and find your tribe. We created our tribe. Find the tribe that truly believes in you, that truly is there to open those doors, to answer those questions. And it's a two-way conversation. Just because somebody says, yeah, I'll agree to mentor you, you have to be there also. What are you bringing to the table?
No, that's true. I feel like there's so much that does go into actually mentorship and helping out. I'm grateful because I do have a mentor right now, but I feel like there are a lot of people who don't get that. It doesn't really matter the age, because I feel like students, we need mentorship. And once we leave here, we don't have our professors to mentor us, so we need actual mentors. And I feel like, again, to be able to know that there's a place where we can run to that will actually listen to us and provide. And I feel like that's the whole point that you created Argentina, to have a place where people can gather, because you also know what it's like to not be listened to, and you made a place where people can come and be listened to, be heard, and don't feel ashamed to be mother, don't feel ashamed to be a woman. You can be a woman in this space, not just an architect.
Right. It's about embracing your journey, embracing your voice, and speaking loudly.
On top of Argentina, you're involved with organizations like United Way and the Chicago Landmarks Commission. Can you talk about that as well?
Yes, so the Chicago Landmarks Commission is an appointed position by the mayor. And it's a real big honor to do that, because the projects are brought before the commission so that they are reviewed to continue to preserve historic architecture, whether it's a building or a district. And sometimes people want to make revisions or even a renovation. Say it's an abandoned building, right? But it's a beautiful historic building. And so there are certain guidelines that the architect and the owner have to follow to preserve the architectural features. Some are from the exterior only, and sometimes you preserve the interior. So we review those projects, and that also has to do with preserving our environment, our history, our culture. Because when you think about it, people travel. I love the architecture and I love the food. That's what people talk about. So we want to make sure that historical architecture in Chicago is preserved. The stories, what happens in that building, who was in that building, or who designed that building, what is the style of architecture. We want to keep that. And it all goes back to women in this space too. Women want to be a part of that story, to design buildings, to define the culture of our cities. But the commission is a really great honor to be a part of and make those decisions with fellow commissioners. And an organization like United Way is also an amazing organization that looks at the neighborhoods of Chicago, metropolitan Chicago. And we also fund nonprofits to make the neighborhoods better, safer for economic development, just to make quality of life better for people in general. So each neighborhood knows what they need. For example, the South and Southwest Side neighborhoods have been historically marginalized and underinvested. So we look at those neighborhoods and make sure that we support them in however they feel they need to be supported. And it's a really incredible organization. I do want to mention the Climate Action Museum. It's a free museum here in Chicago, which if you haven't been to, please visit 300 South Riverside Plaza. It's free and it's open 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I'm a founding board member of the Climate Action Museum. I was asked to be a board member of the Professional Women in Construction here in Chicago, another amazing organization. And I was asked to be a board member, which I said yes to because I believe in it, what they're doing, their mission, and just providing opportunities for women in a very male-dominated field. Again, we want to be a part of those stories that shape our cities. We are not in the background. We are also decision-making. There's attorneys, there's contractors, there's engineers and architects, of course, all shaping the city of Chicago. And we want to know who they are.
You do a lot. Honestly, you do a lot around the city. I feel like you're pretty much everywhere. And I like that you're working towards many goals and finding the solutions to many problems. You're a really good problem solver and leader as well. And honestly, I feel like, again, like you were saying, like it's really important to have a voice of someone like you on those things because of all the experiences you are also bringing to the table. So going from that, what advice would you give to young architects and students?
Where should I begin? Embrace your journey. Embrace where you came from, because that's the value that you add that nobody else can. That experience that you've lived, that has tremendous value. Don't let anyone undermine your experience or what you look like or where you came from, because all of that is a solution to our built environment. So I would say embrace your voice and your journey because we need it. Be good at what you do. Always better your craft. Just because you graduated college doesn't mean you're done. Just because you got a job doesn't mean you're done. Because you got your license, you're not done. There's always self-improvement, but no one has the experiences that you have, and therein lies your value.
That's beautiful. So we're reaching the end of our episode. Again, thank you for being here with us today. I have one more question for you. What are your future goals?
My future goals to continue on this path. If I've reached one person to make sure that they continue on their goals, then I'm happy. And just continue to help people, especially those that are unheard and unseen, because like I said earlier, because you're on the commission or because you're a board member of this, doesn't mean that the journey is over. There's still a lot more to do. I'm consciously taking time for myself and for my family. My kids are small, so there's always that time just to focus on myself, personal health, because all of this is a lot of work. Future goals is just to continue on this path. It's a lot of fun, but I don't want to forget about myself either. And why I say that is because a lot of us talk about burnout, and it's important to realize that your health is important. For me, it's spending time with my kids, relying on my team, building that trust with colleagues. And so continuing on the path, I guess, quite simply, and not forgetting about yourself.
Well, I hope to continue following you, at least on social media, and also following Argentina. That's going to definitely help me with my future as an architect. But thank you again for being on our show today. I really appreciate this conversation. And This month also marks our year of podcasting, so it is an honor to be able to have you here.
Oh, congratulations. I know it's not easy, it's a lot of work. So, I mean, it's a tremendous, tremendous milestone that you have reached. So, I congratulate you and your team on everything that you're doing. Don't stop because people need to hear more stories. So, congratulations.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. I want to thank everyone for listening. We release our episodes monthly. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at beyondthesurface_Nomas IIT. I want to thank our producer, Kayla Kwok, and the Nomas IIT team for making this podcast possible. Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond the Surface featuring Alicia Ponce. Until next time, goodbye.